If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. Today we are continuing on with our filament package series, and what I want to do is work on some active status for our admins. I found a package that we're going to use today, and it's just going to basically say active when the user has logged into our project. What I want to do first is add an isActive field to our database. So let's head over to the terminal and set that up. In order to set up our migration, I'm just going to do sail artisan, make migration, and then I'll just call it add isActive column to users table. Press enter and let it run. Let's go ahead and work on this migration. It'll be the last one down here. What I want to do here is just add the field. So we'll say table. It'll be a Boolean. We'll call it isActive. And then I want to place it after the isAdmin field that's already in the database. By default, I want to set it to 0. And then let's also drop the column if we remigrate the database. Just use the drop column function and we'll say isActive. Let's go ahead, add it to the model. And then let's also add it to the seeder that we have for the roles and the permissions. Go up here, and where we're creating them, we'll just do, I'll copy this. And then we'll just do 0. And instead of admin, it'll be active. And let's do that for the rest of them. Now, all of the users that we're going to be seeding will also have the isActive field. So let's go ahead and run the migration so we can get that set up. I'll do a fresh so we can drop everything. And then I'll also add the seed flag on there so that it can reseed that roles and permissions seeder. Now that that's done, let's go up to, we'll close these. We'll go up to the app, filament, resources, and we will open up that user resource so we can add that table or add that field to the database. For now, I'm just going to use this. We're going to install the package in a moment, but I'll drop that down here. We'll say isActive, just to make sure that we can at least see the field name. Okay, I need to re-log in. Now that it's refreshed, we now have the isActive column, and all of them are by default false. Let's head over to the filament documentation and find that plugin. In the filament documentation, if you go to the plugins tab, it will bring you to this page down here. And if you scroll down to the search bar, I'm just going to type in badge. And here's the package, it's badgeable column. And if you click that, it'll take you to this page over here. In here, you can see just a small glimpse of what it can do, and this is basically what I'm looking to add into our users table. But if we go down a little bit, you can see there are some installation instructions here where we're just requiring the package, and then we're going to be able to publish the views, and you can also publish the translations and the assets and stuff like that. And this is what it's going to look like within our resource. So if you scroll down, continue on, that's basically all that there is. You can also add colors, you can name them different things, or, you know, however you're setting it up, you can customize the colors for them. This gray primary, these are the Tailwind colors. So if you click this visit GitHub, I want to go and check out the repo because, as I said in the previous video, the repo tends to be the most updated. And as you can see from when I'm recording this video, it was 2 days ago that a new release has been made. If you go down, you can see again, it's a similar example. Same thing here in dark mode. And then they also have chips that you can use for tags. And you can also do something like this with having checks and minus and stuff like that. But basically, I just want to have a column that will show if they're active, and it'll look something like that. So let's go ahead and copy this, and then we're going to go ahead and install it. Because I'm using Sail, I'm going to have to add that first, and then it'll do composer require AWC codes. One thing I'd like to suggest too is if you guys are going to be using these packages in your project, I would definitely go to those repos and just star them or something just to kind of show your appreciation. These folks put these things together for free so that we can use them. And I think giving a star is, you know, it would be a really nice thing to do. That's just my 2 cents. Great, let's go see what the next step is. Well, for us, I am going to publish the views because I want you to see where they're coming from, what they look like, so that if you want to customize it, you'll know where to get it. We're not doing any translations or we don't have to deal with assets, but I think the views might be useful to someone. I'll do sale, paste that in. I don't need the PHP, so I can get rid of that. So now that that's published, let's go ahead down to the resources folder, views. Might need to refresh this. And we have a vendor folder here. And then there is a filament badgeable column folder here. And if you open that up, you see there are 3 different components. This is the badge. This is showing the colors. If it has colors, it just is some logic in there to fill out the colors. There's a badgeable column component in here, and it's just showing how to display it. Badgeable tags column. So this is if you're going to be using the little chips, and this is where the logic for that is. And that should be good. So let's close these out and let's head back. This is basically how we're going to be using it. And as you can see, this is the badgeable column component, and then the badge is the other component that we looked at, and this is what it's going to look like. If you have a field with different options and stuff, you can use the badge field component, and that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and implement something like this within our code. How we are going to do this is to use the name field to decide whether that user is active or inactive, right? So I'll bring this up here just so that we can have it. And then I'll do badgeable column. We'll make the name because, like I said, I can get rid of this. We're going to be using the name to mark whether or not the user is active or not. So we'll do that. Then we'll do badges. And then our first badge, or our only badge that I'm doing for this, we'll say make is active. And then the label itself, we'll call it active. That's what will be in the little text field of the badge. And then the color, I'm just going to make it the green color, which is success. So here I want to make it visible. I can spell visible. And then we'll do function. We're going to use the record that's coming in from the request. We'll say that it's Boolean. And so if the record is active or if it's false, let's add the comma here. And then I also want to make it searchable and sortable. Okay, let's import the badgeable column and the badge. Let's just make sure that those are imported up top. Here's the badgeable column, and here is the badge component. They have been imported. But what I want to take a look at is the logic. It's going to be visible if the record has and is active, if it's true. And if not, it'll be false. This is the true value we're looking for, and that's when it will be visible. Why don't we go ahead and make our current user have an active class since they are logged in? Right, so in our user model, we have isActive is 0, and we are logged in as the admin. So I'm just going to go ahead and change this to 1, and then I'll go ahead and apply that. So now that user should show active. Great, as you can see, we no longer needed that active is active title, and now we are displaying the active user as active here. We are logged in, we are active. Fantastic. Now, the next part of this is going to be a bit tricky. The reason for that is because Filament leverages Laravel's baked-in authentication. So what we want to do is we want to kind of tweak that login and logout process for the admin so that when they log in, then it should show active here. And then when they log out, it should not, right? So we're going to do some tweaking to the login and logout capabilities of Filament. Let's go ahead and close all of this out. And then I want to head down to the vendor folder where our Filament stuff is. We'll go to Filament, and then we'll go to the source folder. In here, there's another folder called HTTP, and here are the responses. They're in an auth folder. You see there's a contracts folder and the login response and the logout response. All these are really doing is responding to what's happening. So for instance, this login response is responding to when the user logs in, we are going to redirect them to the intended Filament get URL, which our default is the dashboard. Same thing for the logout. Once a user has logged out, this will respond to that and it'll redirect using the config files and routes and stuff like that to redirect out of a logout process, which really just goes back to the login page as default for us. Now, as you can see, they are using the logout response contract, the login response contract, and it's using them as responsible. And those are right in this folder right here. As you can see, Really, really simple, super easy. We're going to go ahead and use the login response. We're not going to be able to use the logout response for this in the same way because by the time it gets here, the user's already logged out, so we can't tap into that authenticated user by just straight using this, right? So we'll go ahead, close this for now. I'm going to take this login response that we just looked at with the redirect. I'm going to copy it. And then I am going to go up to the app folder so that we can manipulate it in our own project. HTTP. We'll make a new folder called responses. And then I'll just, for now, go ahead and paste that in. Great. I'm going to go ahead and close these out so that we don't accidentally change up the wrong one. But in here, we can start tapping into that function. So when the user logs out, we can do auth user. We can use the update function that we have from Laravel. And all we want to do is change is active to 1. So basically what we manually did when we did it in the database itself. I also want to change the namespace here so that it's using our own. And that should be good. The other thing that I want to change is, even though we're going to be using the same contract, I want to change the name here just so that we make sure not to confuse anything with coming from the vendor folder. So I'll call this one login response contract. Actually, this should be APP, not ATT. So like I said before, we are trying to override the login process of Filament. For us to be able to use this response, we can put it in a provider. Now, you can use one of these providers, but I want to make a separate one just so that we keep everything as separate as possible. And it's basically just separation of concerns, just making sure that we keep everything where it's supposed to be. Because things like Fortify are within the Fortify service provider, Jetstream, same thing. And we want to make sure that we stay as organized as possible, right? I want to go ahead and I want to create a provider. So we'll use the artisan make provider, and we'll just call it Filament Service Provider. Let's go ahead and register this login response into that provider. To do that, we can just come right down to the boot function, and then we want to bind a login response from the auth contract folder. All right. We're going to say class. We want to bind that contract to our app, HTTP. This is the new login response that we just created. Class. Now I imported this one and I didn't import this one. So let's just make sure that it is up top, and that should be good to go. So now the other thing that we need to do is to register this Filament service provider in the app config folder. All the way down at the bottom where the service providers are listed, we can go ahead and put it in here. So we'll do app providers, and we'll just use the Filament service provider. And so now that has been officially registered. So we can go ahead and close this. And we are not going to be using the same process for the logout response. We're going to have to actually do something else, but we can go ahead and close out our Filament service provider as well. Actually, that's the wrong one. Let's try this again. I'm going to go ahead and import this. And we are using this Filament HTTP responses auth contracts login response. And then we bound it to our new one. Great. So let's go ahead and see if this works. I'm going to close this out. And then I want to head back into the database, and I'm going to go ahead and change this to 0. Apply. Then we'll go to the browser. We'll go ahead and log out this user. And then we will try to log in again. We'll see if that 0 has now been changed back to a 1. Okay, good. So we have our active status here. And if I refresh the database, it has been changed back to 1. Let's go and work on our logout. So now this can be turned back to a 0. This is going to actually be a little bit different. We can't really use the logout response for this, so I'm just going to go ahead and close this up for right now. We're going to go back to the vendor folder. We're going to go down to Filament, and then I want to go to Source. Or actually, I want to go to the routes. And if we open that up, you can see we have a bunch of different functions here. Basically, what the configuration files are doing for login, logout. You have your assets route. And then you have your pages, resources, etc. And what I want to do with this file in here is I want to copy these routes, and I really just want to get to this route right here. I want to create a new route with a new controller, and then we are going to try this. Once the user hits that route, we'll be able to do anything we want with that user, then log out, and then invalidate the session, regenerate token, all this other stuff we can do as well. So let's go ahead and create that controller first. This one I'm going to go ahead and put into an admin folder. I don't want to confuse anyone, so we'll just try to be as explicit as possible. I'm also going to make this invocable. I don't remember if I saw it in the documentation or what. I read a lot of documentation in the last couple months about this, and I feel like it might have said something to the effect of it needs to be invocable for you to override these, so that's what we're going to do. For now, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to copy it and put it in our own web routes file. So we're going to go ahead and paste that in for right now. Now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to just make the route. We're going to give it a prefix of name. We'll give it a name of admin. I don't know why I put name there, but I'll fix that. It should be admin. And we'll make it a group function. You don't have to make it a group function if you don't want to. I'm going to leave it like this in case you want to change up the login route or, do it differently than I did. I'm going to leave it as a group in case you want to do something like that. So it's going to be route, host, logout. We're going to use that logout controller class, and then we'll just name it logout. So the idea is going to be that anything within this group is going to have a prefix of admin. So it'll be admin/logout. The route name will be admin dot, and then it'll attach to whatever name is here. So it'll be admin.logout. And that's pretty much it, right? So I'm going to go ahead and for now, I'm just going to copy this because this is what's happening with the logout. And we're going to put it in that controller. And in the invoke, just going to paste that in there for right now. We'll clean up this routes folder or file. So we don't need any of these, and that should be good. Now, before I forget, I want to change this in the components and views where we have this. For right now, what we have in our project, there are only two places that we're displaying a logout button. We can go down to the resources folder, the views folder, and we have a vendor folder in here where we have our filament stuff that we published. The first one that I want to do is the components, layouts, app, top bar, and then the user-menu.blade. What's happening here is this is actually coming from this right here. So these things are what's being listed in our user menu as of now. So we can just go ahead and search for it. Here's one. It's not the button or the link, but here it is, the route right here. So we can go ahead and change this to admin.logout. And that's the only place that we have it on this page. But we can go down, and the other place that we have it is in the widgets folder, the account widget. That account widget has that logout button right here. So we'll do that here as well. Those are the only two places that we have it so far. If you've added any extra widgets, pages, components, or anything like that, make sure that you change that in there as well. So we can close these out now. Now that they're pointing to our new route, we can close this as well. And let's work on this. Really, the first thing that we want to do is the same thing that we did with the login response, except in reverse. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it here. And then the isActive is now going to be changed to 0. And let's go ahead and import this. We also can use the contract for this. Filament auth contracts logout response, and the redirect should be the exact same. Let's give this a try and see if our isActive is now changed to a 0 when the user logs out. Okay, we'll go ahead and refresh it. We will try to log out. Okay, well, we've successfully been logged out. Let's see if our database says the same thing. Look at that. Our isAdmin has been changed to a 0. Now we have some statuses for our admins. One thing I want to mention is since the front end is using a completely different authentication system, you can do something similar to the login responses for the users on the front end so that when they log in, you'll be able to also see if they have active or inactive status. Right now, because we're focusing on the admin panel, I'm not going to worry about the users at this point. Just know that you can do the same thing with the login response from whatever it is you're using. So for me, I'm using Fortify. I would just use the login or logout responses from Fortify. Just a quick message from my stay to the end squad, you guys who always watch all the way to the end of the video. This is currently my birthday month and I will be celebrating, but what I would like for you guys to do is to put some ones in the comments section, and people who didn't get this far will be really, really confused when there are a bunch of ones in the comment section and they've missed this opportunity. That would be a great birthday present. If you're enjoying the content, please go ahead and click that like button as it really does help out the channel. Here's a video YouTube thinks you'll like, and here's a playlist to follow along. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.